Hello there, right here we have a brand new snapshot. This is for the 1.16 Nether update. This is version 20W19A. And today guys, we'll be looking into all the changes that come out in this new version of Minecraft. And there are some pretty big ones, especially to do with farming up mobs in the game of Minecraft, as well as addressing a bunch of bugs to do with villagers. And after this video goes live, we're going to be testing out all the new changes in more detail. Make sure to join our snapshot testing stream, which you can find the link down below for. And if you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and do that because we do a lot of testing as well as looking into the new features of Minecraft. And I'll see all you guys on this world after this review. Now let's get into all the new changes with the new snapshot. The first new feature of the snapshot is they added patches of blackstone as well as gravel to naturally generate in all of the new nether dimensions, in all of the nether biomes. So we're currently sitting here in a crimson forest, and even here we got gravel as well as blackstone. This is a cool change because blackstone is kind of like cobblestone. By having it kind of in every biome, you're able to make most stone tools with it. Now we did notice that some tools are not in the recipe when you're using blackstone instead of cobblestone, stuff like pistons, brewing stands, and there's some other ones. So maybe they'll make it more consistent. So like everything you can use cobblestone for, you can also use blackstone for. They also added patches of soul sand to be able to generate in the soul sand valley. So here we're down underground. You can see there's like little patches that just occur within the biome. A little bit different than the ones that you see kind of like blanketing the top of the biome, which are usually only so thick and then there's netherrack underneath them. This kind of gives a little more variety when you're mining. So let's say you're going after some of the new netherite ancient debris and you're mining down through the ground, you run across other stuff like blackstone, soul sand, and gravel, and not just consistent netherrack. They also added a new statistic to do with strider. So if you ride a strider, and as you're moving, you're actually increasing the statistic, and it is distance by strider. We go down here, you can see distance by strider. Very similar to like the distance by pig or like horse. And striders do move pretty good. I've seen people that had trouble kind of getting them to be able to do this running. All in all, a pretty good transportation for moving throughout the nether. They also made a change to villagers. They can now spawn in iron golems regardless of their professional status or latest working time. If you guys remember the iron farms, they did need to have villagers that have worked recently or villagers that have slept recently in order to spawn an iron golem. This was causing problems for natural villages like this. Villagers weren't fulfilling these requirements, and therefore the iron golem wasn't doing a very good job at summoning in and protecting them. One of the devs tweeted out that he was also working on trying to get the iron golem to kind of move around better throughout the village to protect the villagers better. This probably won't break iron farms, but it may allow us to revamp them. That'll be something we'll be testing during a snapshot testing stream. They also made a tweak to mob spawning. They said it's now going to try to more closely adhere to mob caps. So in the past, you were able to make super large areas of spawning. So maybe like an ocean that was quite large. Instead of just getting the mob cap of water mobs, which is around 6, which is pretty low, because there was so much spawning, the game would end up actually overfilling the mob cap. So now we probably won't see as good of mob spawns because the game's probably going to be checking the mob cap every so often. So making a farm really big probably won't make as much sense now, because as soon as the game will reach the number of mobs to fill the cap, it's not going to go overboard like it used to. They also made a change to fish spawning. Now they have their own mob cap as well as mob category. So before they were under the water mobs, just like squid. This made it kind of difficult to balance them out with other mobs because there's other stuff here like dolphins and squids. And sometimes like the tropical fish, it could be just be tons of them compared to other mobs. So by having their own mob cap, it should make it easier just to farm like squids without getting tons of fish in them. This will also allow us to kind of revamp our fish farms. They also made a change to the bastions. These are bastion remnants. They are now a bit less common in worlds. That just means you have to kind of search farther and harder in order to find these guys. They do offer a lot of good loot and some unique items which are only found in the chests that come with these guys. May change to how you can obtain some of the nether vegetation, that being the nether sprouts, which are these little guys right here, can now only be obtained by using shears on them. So if we go into survival and we break these, you see if we get an item. If we don't use shears and we break them, nothing occurs. This means we're going to have to change our shifting floor design, because the shifting floor essentially like moves this block, which makes, I don't think it's going to pop off. You can see now if the block is removed, no item is given. We're going to have to make a new farm where we use shears to collect these guys. But my normal automatic nether plant farm will work great for obtaining all the rest. I also made a change to weeping vines as well as twisting vines. Now they won't grow as far per bone mill. That one only grew 2, grew about 3. So now it's a lot less. Before you could like bone mill at one time and it'd jump like 7 blocks tall. So here you can see we're about between 1 and 4 blocks each time, so it's not as extreme. You can still code to the bottom and bone mill any of the lower pieces to make the top grow, which is kind of a cool feature. We're just going to take more bone mill now. They also fixed a lot of bugs in this version. You can tell that they're getting close to doing the pre-releases for 1.16. They fixed a bug to do with shield statistics not working. They also made a change so that elytra and levitation will now work together. You can see the person is kind of put out of the elytra mode and now it starts to just float upwards. They also fixed it so that the clocks inside of the clocks as well as compasses inside of crafting tables will no longer illustrate information unless you actually have the materials to craft one up. So notice how this one's animated and this one's not. People were using this in order to get that information without actually having the materials to craft it. But you can still get information from the clock without actually crafting one up. And this compass up in the top left also doesn't turn. And these next bugs are bugs that all have been reported somewhat recent. They also fixed it so villagers will no longer try to sleep in occupied beds. And they fixed the problem to do with villagers popping out of their bed when they're supposed to be sleeping. As well as the problem to do with villagers taking beds of another villager, causing the previous villager who owned the bed not to look for a new bed. They also fixed the problem where iron golems were non-stop spawning. They also changed the distance in which villagers can find their point of interest, like their bed or their workstation. This way they're actually doing their working and other stuff so they can move around naturally. They also fix the problem that villagers that generate with structures have a lot lower following range than villagers that are spawned in otherwise. They also fix the problem that there would be a villager that would spawn near the meeting point would constantly be frozen here and the chunk was freshly generated. They also changed it so piglins as well as hoglins will now get zombified even if they're in the end dimension. So you can see that guy converted over. And this guy will also convert over. So now they're only good for the nether dimension. This is something I showed in the past where you could sneak them over here into the end dimension, actually make them keep this form. I made a change to the nether vegetation, so now it won't be completely centered. The actual plant looks like it's a little bit off center, similar to grass. You can see this one here is kind of hanging over the edge of this block. You can see this one's hanging over and they're actually meeting in the middle and touching each other. This is just visual. The actual box is over here. This just gives it a less uniform look when you have a whole bunch of these in a row. They also made a big change, which is mobs can no longer spawn directly inside of wither roses. This was a pretty easy way to make mob farms, and I've shown this in the past, where you just put out a lot of wither roses and kill off a ton of mobs. So now you'll need to have spawning platforms for the mobs to spawn on, and then wither roses for them to be killed with. So this change is very similar to like mobs being able to not spawn in magma blocks unless they're able to be resistant to the fire damage. So like pigmen can spawn on here, but piglins will not, and that's why I use this for a pigman XP as well as gold farm. Same thing applies to the wither roses. Now, like wither skeletons will be able to spawn here, but you won't get any of the other mobs. So it makes a really great wither rose farm, and we should be able to update our wither rose farm, and now should produce more skulls per hour. Our friend Red Command reported a pretty major bug to do with performance, which is hard rails are getting updated, produce a lot more checks in the newer versions than they did in the past. Every time they're being powered, they're checking the block below them and seeing if it's able to support the rail. And this was causing them to be 3 to 4 times more leggier than they were like in 1.12. This is great because power rails are often used as kind of way to send signals a decent distance without using redstone does, which actually does more checks. If you have tons of redstone, it can also cause a lot of problems, especially if you're running many things on a server. They also made a change so Endermen will now teleport if they land on magma blocks. They fixed the problem with fish spawning with extremely high numbers, over 200 different entities of one fish type in just 5 minutes, and this was pretty problematic, especially on servers where people would kind of load big chunks of ocean, just have tons of fish, and multiple people do that, you just have tons of entities. And they've tried to address this in the past, but it looks like they went for a more straightforward fix this time. They fixed some inconsistencies with the blackstone blocks and the textures underneath them. They fixed the problem that this little word here, inventory, was missing when opening up a blacksmith table. They now fixed it so that piglins will now take enchanted crossbows over just normal crossbows that they have, if they're able to pick up items. They fixed it so dispensers will now play the correct audio cue when placing in glowstone into a respawn anchor. It's a sound that the dispenser actually worked. There was a problem when people were updating the worlds from version 20W16 to 20W17. They noticed that the Enderman spawns would drastically drop in the end dimension, and they have addressed that. They made it so both the Crimson door as well as the Warped door now have hinges. You can see them right here. Makes it look a little bit different, but that way you can actually tell which side is going to stay and which side is going to rotate. In the last snapshot, fishing altogether wasn't working, where you fish up like fish or other items from water. And one of the 240p members, Landfork, actually mentions this to me, and they fixed it in this snapshot. So hopefully he'll see those results. They said they finally fixed the problem to do with shields not glittering, as well as tridents and elytras. Let's see if we can notice anything. Okay, I mean, like, the little arm piece which you're holding glitters, but does anything else glitter? I don't know. I feel like that's a really poor glitter on the shield. Like, you can't even tell like this was enchanted until you put your mouse over top of it. Let's go ahead and drop it on the ground. Yeah, it just seems like that little piece glitters. It's kind of strange. Also, the shield still, when it rotates on the ground, it still kind of rotates around one corner, which is kind of strange. Or most stuff rotates around the center. You can put different landmarks onto maps just by right-clicking your map up against them. And they now made it so that these labels will now render properly. You can kind of see the banner I placed down there. To me, it looks like it's a little bit tilted to one side, even though I faced it straight on when I clicked on it. Huh, yeah, no. Every time you click it, it rotates a different direction. Maybe that's not quite fixed. They fixed a problem to do with redstone dust not visually connecting from this piece to that piece when going over top of soul sand. This little section here was missing, and now you can see it looks more normal. Something I mentioned in the last snapshot where they changed redstone. Don't play in the wither roses. They also changed it so that since it's now not just a dot but more of a cross, particles will actually come off of all parts of it rather than just the center. They slimmed down the font so it's not as thick for the different category sections in the creative menu. There was actually quite a bit of changes in this snapshot, especially since I designed farms. A lot of these changes have to do with farms. We're really going to have to rework quite a few different farms and make sure they're still working appropriately. Kind of surprised they didn't do more tweaks to kind of the redstone like they did in the last snapshot, because there are some edge cases that could probably be addressed. All in all, a lot of different types of fixes over a wide range of things in Minecraft. Definitely can tell they're getting closer to doing the pre-releases, making sure to fix a lot of bugs, especially bugs that were created in the new Nether update snapshots. If you guys know of any bugs that haven't been fixed yet, you guys can tell me down below, as well as make sure to report them on the Mojang page. You also can report bugs right from your game menu here. You can just click this button here, it'll take you to their page. And I'll probably be doing a video pretty soon going over major bugs that still haven't been addressed yet. Should be pretty interesting to test out these new changes in more detail during a snapshot testing stream. Make sure to hop on over there. Link is down below. We open up a brand new world like this where all the viewers can hop on. As we test out these new things, we got to design a bunch of new farms just with this snapshot alone. So I'll see all you guys over there. And make sure to share this video with your favorite Minecrafters so you can learn about all the changes that are coming out, as well as bugs that have been fixed. And leave a like on the video. I'd like to thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.